Alright, let's get brutally honest for a second. Let's talk about that feeling that's probably been an unwelcome guest in your mind. That constant low hum of anxiety, the knot in your stomach that tightens when you know you're about to deal with that person. You know the type. The ones who seem to have a PhD in subtle digs, the masters of passive-aggressive comments, the experts at interrupting just as you're about to make a point, the ones who act like your time, your feelings, your very existence are somehow optional, like you're some kind of inconvenience they have to endure. And maybe, just maybe, you found yourself playing along. You've swallowed the hurt, brushed off the disrespect, convinced yourself you're overreacting, or that it's just their personality. Maybe you've tried to reason with them, to be the bigger person, to make peace, just to avoid the drama, to keep the boat from rocking. But today, we're done. Today, we are not going to let another single ounce of our precious energy be drained by these soul suckers. This isn't about being petty or vindictive. This is about self-preservation, pure and simple. This is about recognizing that you deserve to feel safe, valued, heard, and frankly, treated with basic human decency. It's about taking back your power. I'm going to lay out some unflinchingly honest, maybe even a little controversial, but incredibly effective ways to handle the disrespect that's been slowly eroding your self-worth. We're not talking about losing your cool, yelling, or sinking to their level. We're talking about reclaiming your power with a combination of grace and unwavering strength. By the time we're done here, you'll have a full arsenal of tools to show these boundary stompers exactly where the line is and how serious you are about protecting your heart, your mind, and your spirit. So let's dive in. 1. The silent stare, a masterclass in unspoken power. Forget the raised voices, forget the begging and pleading for respect. Sometimes, the most powerful move you can make is complete and utter silence. And I'm talking about the right kind of silence, the one backed by an unwavering stare. The kind of stare that makes them deeply uncomfortable because they realize their tricks have no effect on you. These people who dish out disrespect, they're usually craving a reaction, a rise out of you. They want you to stumble, get flustered, or maybe even snap back. It's like they need your chaos to validate their own inner turmoil. They're looking to drag you down into their mess, to make you feel small, to make you question yourself. But when you just look at them, calm, collected, and completely unflinching, it's like their power just evaporates. It's deeply unnerving for them when they don't get the chaos they're expecting. It's like you're not playing their game, not giving them the fuel they need to keep their disrespect going. When you hold that steady, silent gaze, it's like you're saying, I see you. I see your games. I know what you're doing, and I am not engaging. It's a silent declaration of power, a way of reclaiming control without saying a single word. It's truly, magically effective. Let me tell you about a time I saw this tactic work wonders. I was in a group meeting, one of those excruciating ones, and there was this guy who clearly thought his opinions were the only ones that mattered. He kept talking over me, cutting me off mid-sentence, like he was on some kind of mission to dominate the conversation. I tried interjecting, tried being polite, the usual routes, but it was like talking to a brick wall. So, finally, I just stopped. I leaned back in my chair, crossed my arms, and held his gaze. No blinking, no expression, just a steady, unwavering stare for a solid 5 seconds. I didn't say a single word. You could feel the tension in the room. Even the other people at the table started to look at him too, wondering what he would do. And you know what? He got incredibly uncomfortable, stumbled over his words, stammered, and looked anywhere but at me. It was like he realized for the first time that he wasn't just talking into a void, and he finally shut up. He didn't interrupt me for the rest of the meeting, and frankly, he treated me with a lot more respect after that, as if he'd finally understood I wasn't someone he could simply bulldoze. Sometimes, you have to show people who you are, without saying a single word. Let's dig a little deeper into this. This isn't just a power move, it's a reminder to them, and to yourself, that you do not have to dance to anyone else's tune. You don't owe anyone a reaction, an explanation, or an emotional breakdown. You don't have to prove your worth to people who clearly don't see it. This is about reclaiming your space, your peace of mind, your very dignity. Too often when someone disrespects us, we have an urge to defend ourselves, to argue our case, or even worse, to let it slide just to avoid a scene. But the silent stare is not about aggression. It's about showing that you're centered, you're unbothered, and you're unapologetically in control of your own emotions. It's about accountability as well. People who are used to disrespecting others often do it unconsciously, simply because they've never been called out. When you give them that silent, deadpan look, it's like you're holding up a mirror, forcing them to look at their own reflection. You're not telling them they're wrong, you're showing them. And most people can't stand to see themselves acting like that, which is exactly why this tactic works. I've found that the silent stare does more than just get the other person to shut up. It also strengthens your own sense of self-worth. When you stand there silently, you're reminding yourself that their words and actions simply cannot shake you. I used to be the type who'd nervously laugh off rude comments or try to explain myself when someone questioned my choices. But honestly, that just drained my energy, and it always made me feel worse. Learning to just look at someone, to let the silence fill the room without backing down, was a complete game changer. It feels like a small act of defiance, a quiet yet powerful declaration of self-respect. So, if someone is being rude, pushing your boundaries, making you feel like you're less than, try the silent stare. Just look at them. Let them feel the weight of your calm and unwavering presence. You'll be utterly surprised by how uncomfortable it makes them, and more importantly, how incredibly empowered it makes you feel. The silent stare says, I respect myself way too much to get dragged into your negativity. And that, my friend, is a message worth sending every single time. 2. Silence as your shield. The deafening power of no response. Now, let's talk about another secret weapon that's incredibly underrated, yet ridiculously powerful: silence. When someone disrespects you, one of the most effective responses you can offer is simply no response at all. And I know what you're thinking. Silence might feel passive. It might feel like you're letting them get away with it, right? But here's the truth. Silence is far from passive. It is a powerful, deliberate choice, and sometimes it's the boldest, loudest statement you can make. When someone is throwing negativity your way, they're trying to pull you into their drama. They're trying to make you feel small, make you defensive, to make you react. But when you don't engage, when you just let their words hang in the air, unanswered, it forces them to sit with their own ugly behavior, and that silence, it becomes deafening. Let's break down why this strategy works so effectively. People who disrespect others typically expect a reaction. They're searching for a fight, for some justification for their behavior, or at the very least, some kind of validation of their own toxic actions. But when you use silence, you're sending a clear message. I am not giving you my energy, I'm not engaging. You're keeping control of the conversation, or rather, deciding there isn't going to be a conversation. It's a subtle, powerful reminder that they are simply not worth your time, not worthy of your precious words. Sometimes, the most powerful way to communicate is by intentionally not communicating. It's choosing not to lower yourself to their level. I remember this one particular instance, being around this person who just couldn't resist taking those little snipes, you know the kind. The kind of person who hides their insults as jokes and then tries to pass it off as harmless fun. One day, this person said something completely unnecessary about the work I was doing, clearly just to get a reaction out of me. Normally, I would have tried to explain myself, or maybe even fire back a comment, but this time, I decided to do something different. I just looked at this person, raised an eyebrow, and said absolutely nothing. I let their words hang in the air, let them feel that incredibly awkward, silent pause, and you know what happened? They didn't know what to do. They looked at me, then they looked down, mumbled something incoherent, and just moved on, and it was like a switch had flipped in their mind. That moment, that powerful silence, it was the last time this person ever tried to pull that kind of crap on me. It's like they finally realized that if I wasn't reacting, there was no power for them to gain. And that is the beauty of silence. It starves disrespect of the attention it so desperately craves. Here is the deeper message behind this strategy. When you choose silence, you are ultimately choosing yourself. You are stating loud and clear, I value my own peace of mind above your petty opinion of me. And that, my friend, is not just empowering, it's completely revolutionary. So often we feel pressure to respond, to explain ourselves, to defend our choices, to prove our worth to people who, quite frankly, are not interested in respecting us. But by embracing silence, you're refusing to play by their twisted rules. You're taking a stand without even raising a finger. You are letting them know they are simply not worth your precious energy, not worthy of your breath, your words, and your thoughts. It's not just about controlling the situation, it's about reclaiming your own internal energy. Silence is like a filter. It keeps your peace intact by blocking out the negativity others are desperately trying to project onto you. The moment you stop feeling the need to respond to every rude comment, every passive-aggressive jab, you set yourself free. You stop giving people access to your inner world, and you start truly living life on your terms. I'll be real with you, though. Learning to use silence wasn't easy for me. I used to think that if I didn't defend myself, I would look weak or passive, or like I was somehow agreeing with the disrespect they were showing me. But I started noticing something really interesting. Every single time I responded to someone who disrespected me, I would inevitably end up feeling drained and completely frustrated. But when I held my tongue, when I let their comments simply pass by me, like white noise, I realized I felt lighter, stronger, so much more in control. It was like I had taken back a piece of my power every single time I chose silence over some kind of knee-jerk reaction. So here's my challenge for you. The next time someone disrespects you, just pause. Take a deep breath, make eye contact, and say nothing. Let your silence speak for itself. Watch how uncomfortable it makes them, and, more importantly, how utterly freeing it feels for you. Embrace silence as your powerful answer, because sometimes, saying nothing at all is the most powerful statement you can possibly make. 3. Stop explaining yourself. You owe no one an explanation for your existence. Alright, this one is going to hit home for a lot of you, so let's get into it. Seriously, let's talk about the habit of constantly explaining your choices to others. It's time to stop. How many times have you made a decision for yourself, only to have someone immediately question it, like you're some kind of talking question mark? Why did you do that? Why didn't you go to that event? Why did you take that job? People seem to think that they are somehow entitled to a detailed explanation for absolutely every single thing that you do. And here's the honest truth. They are absolutely not. Your choices are your choices, and you do not owe anyone an explanation for how you choose to live your one precious life. I know it might sound a little controversial, but let's be real here. If someone's questioning your choices, they're most likely not seeking to understand you. They're simply looking to judge you. They're looking to find the holes in your logic, to make you doubt yourself, to try and make themselves feel better about their own choices by making you second-guess yours. And you know what? You don't have to play along with that game. The moment that you stop explaining yourself is the exact moment that you reclaim your own personal autonomy, and you show them that your life is most certainly not up for debate. Let's dig a little deeper and examine why people even feel so entitled to an explanation in the first place. When people question your choices, it's often because your decision somehow challenges their own narrow view of the world. Maybe you're taking a risk that they are too scared to take for themselves, or maybe you're stepping outside of the comfort zone that they find so deeply comforting. Your independence, your willingness to do things differently, can actually make them feel uncomfortable, and so they resort to asking you to explain it, as a way of trying to push you back into their own little box. But here's the real kicker. Just because they are uncomfortable doesn't mean that you're somehow responsible for reassuring them. Your life is not a public service announcement. You do not have to justify your choices to a single soul on this earth. I remember when I decided to switch my entire career, moving from a safe, secure, predictable job to something that I was actually genuinely passionate about, something that, let's be honest, came with a huge amount of risk. The moment people found out, it was like I had announced that I was moving to Mars. The questions started flying in relentlessly. Why would you leave such a stable job? How are you possibly going to make that work? Are you crazy? At first I would try to explain. I would talk about how I really wanted something more fulfilling, how I actually had a plan, but I quickly realized that no matter what I said, it was never enough. The more I tried to explain it, the more questions they threw at me, poking holes in my ideas and making me feel like I somehow needed to prove myself to them. Then one day, I decided to try a brand new approach. When someone asked, "But why would you leave that job?" I simply replied, "Because I wanted to." No extra details, no elaborate breakdown of my grand strategy, just a simple answer. And let me tell you, it felt absolutely amazing. The silence that followed was absolutely deafening. It was like people didn't know how to respond because I had taken away their power to question my decisions. And you know what? They eventually stopped asking. Here's the real beauty of not explaining yourself. It's incredibly freeing. It's about you standing in your own truth, knowing that your decisions are enough simply because you have made them. When you finally stop justifying your actions, you give yourself the permission to live completely authentically, without the weight of other people's expectations weighing you down. You stop wasting your precious energy on explanations, and you start pouring that energy into actually living the kind of life that you want. There's a hugely powerful lesson here. Your life does not need an audience vote. Not every single decision that you make has to be analyzed or approved by others. And when you finally stop explaining yourself, you're sending a clear message to others. I am confident enough in my own choices that I do not need your approval. Think about it. When was the last time that you saw a truly confident person breaking down their decisions for others? Probably never, because people who own their lives, who walk in their own truth, do not need external validation. They know that the only approval that ever truly matters is their own. Look, I've been there. I used to be the person who would give a full-blown PowerPoint presentation on why I was doing something, just to try to get everyone on board. But over time I realized that explaining myself to everyone was only making me second-guess my own decisions, so I made a pact with myself. If someone asks me about a decision, I will answer briefly, maybe give a sentence or two. But if they start pushing for more, I just smile and move on. And you know what? Life got a lot lighter. The more I stopped explaining, the more confident I became in my own decisions. So here's my challenge to you. The next time that someone questions your choices, resist the urge to explain. Just say, because I wanted to, or that's what felt right for me. Then, let the silence speak. Watch just how incredibly powerful that simple statement truly is. You'll feel stronger, more in control, and at peace with yourself. And the very best part? You'll realize that your choices don't need anyone else's stamp of approval. They are completely valid simply because you made them. 4. The necessary art of distance, protecting your sanctuary. Let's be real for a moment, and let's acknowledge a hard truth. Sometimes, the absolute best way to handle people who just cannot seem to muster any respect for you is to simply create distance. I know it sounds harsh, maybe even a little cold to some ears, but here's the hard truth. Not every single person deserves a front row seat in your life. If someone is consistently disrespecting you, actively undermining you, draining your energy, or making you feel less than you are, then one of the healthiest moves you can make is to put some much-needed space between you and them. This is not about hating them. It's not about being dramatic or petty or vindictive. It's about respecting yourself enough to actually protect your energy, your peace, and your mental well-being. Keeping your distance isn't about being mean or ignoring people or some sort of childish act of rebellion. It's about actively choosing where and how you spend your precious time, your thoughts, and your energy. Imagine your life as a very exclusive, very limited access club, a VIP sanctuary of sorts. Not everyone gets a golden ticket, not everyone gets a VIP pass, and frankly, they don't deserve one. If someone is constantly crossing your boundaries, making you feel small, or is just radiating negativity like some sort of human black hole, why on earth would you keep them close to you? Why would you invite that kind of toxicity into your precious space? It's completely okay. It's actually necessary to take a step back. In fact, distance is absolutely crucial. It can give you the clarity you need to see situations as they truly are, free from the fog of emotional manipulation, guilt, and all the other toxic games they're trying to play. Think about it. When you keep people who consistently disrespect you close by, it's like you're inviting them to an emotional and mental buffet where they are free to take, criticize, and judge as much as they want, as much as they please. And then we wonder why we feel so drained, so anxious, so frustrated, and frankly, so completely defeated. Giving yourself space from these kinds of people is a genuine act of self-preservation. It's about consciously protecting your mental health, preserving your inner peace, and actively making room for people who actually respect you, who actually genuinely uplift you, and who actually see the value and the light in you. Letting go of any guilt around distancing yourself from others can be incredibly liberating. You are most certainly not obligated to keep disrespectful people in your orbit, especially if their orbit is trying to destroy yours. Let me tell you a little story. I once had a friend, and I use that term very loosely, who would find any excuse to make some snide, subtle jab at every single choice I made, be it about my career, my relationships, or even my taste in music. At first, I actually thought that it was just their personality, that maybe I was just being oversensitive, or that I was overreacting, so I kept them around. I kept trying to brush it off, thinking it wasn't that big of a deal. But over time, those little jabs started to get under my skin. They started to chip away at my self-confidence, and I realized that I was constantly walking on eggshells, always bracing myself for the next snide criticism, the next joke that felt more like a punch to the gut. One day, I decided to try a new approach. I didn't make a big, dramatic announcement or try to call them out. I just simply started to limit my time around them. Instead of seeing them every week, I would see them maybe once a month, if that. And guess what? I immediately felt lighter. I felt so much freer. And in that newfound space, I finally realized just how incredibly toxic that friendship had become. Distancing myself gave me the mental clarity to see that I truly deserved better. Friends who would build me up, friends who would support me, and friends who would value me, instead of tearing me down and constantly undermining everything that I did. Here's the thing, and it's very important to understand. Some people are going to try to tell you that creating distance is selfish, that it's somehow cruel, that you're being unfair. They'll use the tired, old argument of, but they're family, or, but you've been friends for years, and they'll try to make you feel like you're the bad guy. It can feel incredibly uncomfortable, maybe even a little taboo, to admit that someone you know well, someone who has been in your life for a long time, just isn't actually good for you. Society has conditioned us to be loyal, to be forgiving, and to be nice. But I have to ask, at what cost? Here's a little secret. Protecting your peace is not selfish. It is absolutely necessary. You're not here to be anyone's emotional punching bag. You're not here to be anyone's constant source of validation. Sometimes, the most powerful way to show someone that you've had enough is by simply stepping back, by removing yourself, and by reclaiming the space that they have been trying to pollute with their own negativity. Here's where it gets really deep. Keeping your distance is a powerful reminder that you are your own priority. You are under no obligation to play the role that someone else has assigned to you, or that they try to push onto you. You do not owe anyone access to your mind, your time, or your emotions. When you put a little space between yourself and disrespectful people, you're making a powerful statement that your well-being comes absolutely first. And that is not just self-care. It's self-respect, pure and simple. Distance also gives you the precious chance to recenter, to focus on the relationships that truly matter, the ones that genuinely uplift you, that make you feel good, and that actually support you. Think about it. The more time you spend around people who respect you, the more confident and fulfilled you'll feel. And conversely, the less time you spend around those who are constantly trying to tear you down, the less room they have to negatively impact your thoughts, your mood, and, ultimately, your life. I used to feel incredibly guilty about distancing myself from people, even if they weren't treating me well. I would wonder things like, what if they think I don't care? Or, maybe I'm just overreacting. But over time I learned that distancing myself was not just about removing negativity from my life. It was about actively creating space for genuine growth. When I finally gave myself permission to distance myself from people who were disrespectful, I felt a new kind of freedom. I had more energy, more peace, and I had a much clearer vision of the kind of life I truly wanted, and the kind of people I truly wanted in that life. So here's my challenge to you. Take a long, hard look at the people in your life who consistently disrespect you, who make you feel small or drained, and then ask yourself, do these people really deserve this much access to me? Is this person truly contributing something positive to my life? Or are they just draining my energy and diminishing my light? I think you know the answer. 5. Hold your head high. Wear your dignity like armor. Alright, let's talk about an old school classic, a timeless tactic that never, ever goes out of style, and that is the power of holding your head high. Now I know that might sound like some overly generic advice, the kind of thing you read on a poster, but trust me when I say that this one is pure gold when you are dealing with people who just cannot seem to muster any respect for you. Here's the thing. When someone is being disrespectful, they are inherently banking on making you feel small, making you feel ashamed. They want you to doubt yourself. They want you to lower your gaze. They want you to shrink into yourself, to become invisible. But when you stand tall, when you pull your shoulders back, and when you hold your head high, you are saying, without uttering a single word, I know exactly who I am, and nothing you say or do will ever make me feel less than. And here is what is truly powerful about this tactic. Genuine confidence actually makes disrespectful people incredibly uncomfortable. Why? Because they rely on the idea that their words and their actions have the power to influence you, to control you in some way, to make you dance to their miserable tune. When you refuse to let their disrespect touch you, when you literally stand taller, when you hold your head high, you're showing them that they do not have the power to bring you down, that you are unbreakable, that you are a force to be reckoned with. And people who thrive on disrespect simply do not know what to do with that kind of unwavering strength. It throws them off balance. It makes them question their own sense of power. It forces them to look at themselves. And that is something that they simply cannot stand. I remember being in this one situation with someone who just couldn't resist throwing little insults my way every single time we met. You know the type. Always a smirk. Always some sort of joke that felt more like a subtle attack. I used to try and just brush it off. I tried not to let it get to me. But honestly, it did get to me. And I found myself starting to actually dread being around them, feeling like I had to defend myself every single time. But then one day, I decided that I was completely done feeling small. I decided to show up with my shoulders back, with my head held high, and every single time they made one of their little comments, I just looked them straight in the eye, smiled calmly, and carried on like absolutely nothing had happened. And you know what actually happened? They actually started to back off. They started to retreat. It was like they could actually sense that their comments were not reaching me anymore, that I was too far above their nonsense, and suddenly their power just faded. There is something incredibly magnetic about holding your head high. It's like a silent, invisible force field that says, I'm untouchable, I'm secure in who I am, and your attempts to bring me down are just a waste of energy on your part. Here's where it gets a little spicy. People who don't respect you often hate seeing you confident. It messes with their worldview. They desperately want to believe that they are somehow above you, that they have something on you. And when you walk around confidently, unapologetically, it disrupts that entire twisted narrative. To them, it is almost offensive. And society as a whole doesn't always know what to do with people who are unapologetically secure in themselves, who are confident in their worth, especially when they refuse to let other people's negativity define who they are. And let's be real, that can actually make you a bit of a target. But here's the thing. Holding your head high isn't about them. It's not about anyone else. It's all about you. It's about living as if you are fully aware of your own value, as if you have absolutely nothing to prove, and that can feel like a radical act of self-respect. When you hold your head high, you're making a clear statement about your inherent self-worth. You're declaring that no matter what, you see yourself as valuable, you see yourself as deserving of respect, and you see yourself as inherently enough. Here's the deeper message. Self-worth is not something that you earn from others. It's something that you claim for yourself, no matter what others might think or say. You're choosing to walk through this life as if you already have everything that you need within you, because the truth is, you absolutely do. Holding your head high is a constant reminder that you are the main character in your own story, that no one else's opinion has the right to make you feel any less than who you truly are, and the beauty of it is that the more you practice this, the less the disrespect of others will even register. You will be too busy living in your own lane, too secure in who you are, to even be bothered by other people's attempts to knock you down, to make you feel small. This didn't come naturally to me. I used to be the person who would slouch, I would avoid eye contact, and I would just try to shrink myself when people were being critical or dismissive. It felt somehow safer to disappear, to become invisible, but over time I started noticing that every time I held my head high, every time I refused to let someone's negativity seep into my spirit, I felt so much stronger. It was like I was reminding myself, over and over, that I did not need anyone else's approval to feel worthy, that I could simply stand tall in who I was, just as I was, because that was absolutely enough. Holding your head high is not just about your physical posture. It's about your mental posture as well. Walk into every single room as if you completely belong there. Do not shrink yourself to fit into someone else's narrow or twisted idea of who you should be. And if someone makes some snarky comment, just let it roll off you like water off a duck's back. They are not seeing the real you. They are projecting their own insecurities onto you. And so why would you ever let that bother you? So here's my challenge for you. The next time you feel disrespected, whether it's a subtle dig or a full-on insult, do not react. Instead, take a deep, conscious breath, pull your shoulders back, and keep your head held high. Look them straight in the eye, as if you're saying, I see you, but I am above this. You will feel a rush of confidence, a genuine sense of peace that comes from knowing that their words hold absolutely no power over you. Holding your head high is so much more than just good posture. It's a powerful, silent statement of your self-respect. It says, I know who I am, I value who I am, and absolutely nothing you say can change that. Because at the end of the day, respect starts with you. The more you respect yourself, the less room there is for anyone else's disrespect to stick. So, stand tall, own your worth, and always remember, you are worth every single bit of that confidence, every single bit of that inner power. And there you have it. Concrete, actionable ways to handle people who just don't get it and who, honestly, may never get it. Life is far too short, too incredibly precious, to spend bending over backwards for people who simply cannot see your inherent value. Remember, you do not need anyone's permission to stand tall, to protect your peace, and to live your life completely on your terms. People will always try to bring you down. They will always test your boundaries, and they will always question your choices. That's just the sad, twisted world that we are living in. But here's the thing. You get to decide what kind of energy that you choose to let in, and you get to set your own standard for how you are treated. The absolute best part of all of this? The more you focus on your self-respect, the more you will attract people who truly see your worth, people who will genuinely uplift you, and people who will actually inspire you instead of trying to drag you down into their misery. It all starts with you owning your inherent power and letting absolutely everything else fall into place. So, hold your head high, embrace the power of silence when it serves you best, and never, ever apologize for walking away from anything or anyone that does not serve you. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you gained something from this conversation, please consider giving it a thumbs up, and maybe even hit subscribe for more content on owning your life and building the inner confidence that you absolutely need in order to truly thrive in this world. Please share this with anyone you know who may need this reminder to stand tall. And hey, please drop a comment below if you have a personal story about handling disrespect or setting boundaries. I would love to hear it. Until next time, please take care, stay strong, and always remember that true respect truly starts with you, and it should always start within you.